welcome to the show, Total Financial Hour. I'm Arif Halliday. Thanks for being with us, along with Jeff Gerard, talking about your family's financial health, getting out of debt, managing money, of course, planning for your future and your retirement, whatever that looks like, right? Because each of us are a little different. Whatever matters to you in retirement, whatever you think is important or special, it's not always the same for the next person. The challenge comes when it's not when it's not the same thing, or at least pretty darn close, to your spouse.
Oh boy, have we seen that cause a little ripple.
Oh my gosh. We've seen it where, the husband, I'm thinking of one specifically where the husband says, I'm going to be retiring. I said, fantastic. He said, yeah, I've been working 30 years. I'm pretty well done. I'm tired. I said, okay, well, 30 years is certainly a long time, but, that would mean, let's say you started at 20 years old. Well, now you're 50, or 25, you're 55. So I get 30 years is a long time, but it's not 62 or 65 years old, right? The traditional time. So then I looked over at the wife and I said, so what about you? And as she opened her mouth, it was like a comic book. As she opens her mouth to talk, he says, oh no, she's going to still work because we need the money. And I thought, oh, I didn't say anything. A few minutes later, I said, well, then what are you going to do when you're retired? Like, what does your day look like? The next day, poof, you're retired. And what does that look like? And he said, well, I got to clean up around the house. And of course, before he got too far, I said, all right, you finished all of that list. Because all of you guys think, oh, I'm going to be cleaning out the garage and the closet, and then I'm going to repaint this, and I'm going to build a birdhouse, and then I've got this little garden in the back. Okay, so that's 25 minutes. Then what? So it was. It's interesting because, of course, they've been clients for many years now, and they've come back, and she's now gearing up for retirement. But it's different. He's joined a gym. He looks good and having fun. And I said, well, you're probably going to want to retire around the same time, folks. It doesn't have to be exactly the same time, but it starts to put a wedge in your family's, in your relationship. We've seen that.
Yeah, it sure can, because, one is just kind of relaxing and doesn't have to worry about the alarm clock or what they're going to do for lunch.
Look, hey, can you keep it down? I'm trying to sleep in.
Let's try to sleep in, honey. Can you get ready a little bit quieter?
I know you're up at 5 a.m. to beat the traffic.
And the spouse comes home kind of haggard. Maybe they had a rough day at the office, and you've got your feet up on the ottoman. I mean, I can see where that might cause a tiny bit of resentment.
Yeah, and as soon as you walk in the door, he's saying, you know what me and the dog did today?
Or hey, honey, before you come home from work, can you stop and get some milk? We're fresh out of...
Yeah. Since you're out.
Yeah, I mean, you're already there.
It's hot outside.
Right.
Did you not know that?
Yeah.
I don't want to go out.
Trying to catch up on these shows on Netflix.
No reason for both of us to have to go out since you're already dressed in your... work outfit. So be careful. Make sure you retire at the same time. That's a big deal to me, and I don't want to get you worried about this moment in time when you, quote, call yourself retired, and yet the other person is still thinking, my goodness, we have to work. All right. Hey, I want to touch on a couple of things. One of those, Jeff, we've kind of talked about it before, but Social Security has to tap its reserves to cover the 2018 benefits. Now, we were hoping that the strength of the economy in 2017 would put more money back into the Social Security system, not less, and it did. However, there's just an automatic thing that's happening. It's about 10,000 of you every single day are turning age 62. Now, some of you are choosing to still work, but many of you are saying, okay, now I'm retired, or at least start paying me my Social Security benefits. And you're starting to collect those a little sooner. So as that 10,000 person per day is hitting the Social Security rolls, 2018 looks like we're going to have to tap the reserve account.
Well, and you're hitting on all the points, the pressure points of Social Security. I mean, these are entitlements that have to be paid out. These are obligations to the people that have paid in for all these years. And so when we've seen kind of a slump in the economy, even though it seemed like it tailed off a little bit and we started to see some growth, we think that just because, the GDP numbers, right, we're up and the economy's doing great, that all the problems are solved. But we had decades of dipping into and not being able to meet obligations, right? It was money coming in, goes right back out to pay the last person versus having a surplus. So 1 year to the next isn't going to fix the Social Security problem. People starting to take it early because they think it's not going to be there. A lot of people...
Boy, I was just going to say that. You're exactly right.
Because some people think, oh gosh, well, I'm going to do the math. I'm going to say by the time I'm age 70, I want that 32% increase in my Social Security. So if my full retirement age is 66, look, I probably don't need the money. I might even still be working. I plan to not take it till age 70 because
That's right.
the longer I defer it, the higher my benefit
That's
is.
right.
But people are starting to think otherwise now because the buzz is that Social Security is going to wash up by what, 2033, something
Yeah,
like
that's
that?
right. They're saying it's going to be. Listen, you and I both know that there has to be massive changes to the Social Security system. I don't know what they're going to be. I think it just depends on the political, not the math, but the political mood of the country. Now, let me explain something to you, just so you're clear. Math, 1 plus 1 is 2, whether your politicians are on the left or the right, or they believe, or they want you to hold a sign, or they're going to do a commercial pushing Granny over a cliff with a guy in a suit and tie, right? It doesn't matter. Math is math. So the sooner you can get the clowns and the carnival barkers out of the way, then the sooner the right businessmen and women can get to work, sit down and come up with a real solution, instead of these crazy hyper political guys that go nuts. And this is on both sides. Right now, it happens to be a little bit more on one side than another with all the drama, but gosh, it's pretty incredible. Isn't it funny now when I said that? Depending on where you are, you heard that and go, yep, it's the other guy. Yeah, one side, Arif. Yeah, them. Oh, really? Self-reflect, folks. All right, so that's important you know that. Jeff, you mentioned something that is clear because the numbers tell us it's clear, and that is that when folks were in the 2008, 9, 10, 11, when the economy was suffering, we weren't growing. We were suffering substantial job losses every year, and people were saying, oh, no, we're not. Unemployment. No, folks, these people pulled themselves out of the workforce. They said, you know what? Never mind. I'm not going to look for a job anymore. My unemployment benefits expired. The government carries those people as non-existent. They're not even part of the formula anymore. And so consequently, they just turned on Social Security. They said, hey, you know what? Social Security is there for me. That is my new, I was going to retire at 68, but now I'm going to take it at 63 or 2. That caused 1 year of Social Security. It used to be 2034, and it moved it to 2033 by a little blip in a recession that caused people to take it a year, 2 or 3 earlier. Why is that important? Because I believe between now and 2033, we're going to have 2 more of those big recessions. Now, it's not me. I'm not an economist. But I'm a financial guy that has done this for 22 years. I've seen us go through this on a pretty regular basis. I think we're going to have 2 more of them. Now, if the consequences are the same, you can expect 2033 to move up another year to 2032 to 2031. Now, it's just a hypothesis right now, but I think it's a little closer to being reality than you think. So what is the saving grace? We'll take a look. Today, they're coming out with all of this big GDP, gross domestic product. What does that mean? The amount of goods and services produced in a country. So if I buy a laptop computer for $1,000, that's $1,000. If you are paid $50,000 for your job, that's $50,000. If you're paid $200,000, so it adds all the goods and services added up, and it says, are we doing more of it, or are people doing less? Under the Obama administration, we were trying to grow at 1.1, 1.8%. It was tough. I don't know if we ever really got over 2% in a year. I don't think so. However, right now, the estimate is 4 to 4.2 to 3.8, right in that realm of 4. Do you understand what that means? That means the economy is growing at twice the amount. So if there was one computer being sold for $1,000, people can now afford to have 2 computers in the system being sold. Just more goods and services. Now 2 people are hired at $50,000. Very big deal that you think about this, because this is a huge change. Now at the same time, folks, this is one of the things I need you to know about. If you haven't paid attention, CNBC is reporting this, and so are some of our local realtors. And in fact, I heard from one this morning. One of the top realtors in Santa Clarita, probably, I don't know, top 5, top 10. And she says, take a look at the listings that are being reduced. And there was a list that was enormous where price reductions were happening this week. People are panicking, just like they did with the Social Security. I don't think it's going to be there. I better start it. Once you think you're the last one to get out the door with your home sales, here's the headline from CNBC. Southern California, home sales are crashing. Is it a warning sign to the nation? Right? You can say anything and just put a question mark in the news. Right? That's what these news stories did, right? They did it under President Obama. They do it under President Trump. Jeff, an alien? Right? Hey, I didn't say you're an alien. I'm just the news. I'm just reporting a question mark. Although I've seen the gills on the side.
I try to hide them, so I wear a collar.
Turtleneck.
Yeah.
So if that is the case, right, if we're starting to see now that Southern California home sales are slowing down, and is it a warning sign that there's a crash ahead? I don't know what 2018 is going to be like towards the end. I think you ought to start looking at safety in your retirement accounts. We have talked about that. Is the market the next? Is the stock market the next thing to settle down? Maybe. We're at record highs. Whoever said buy at the bottom and sell at the top? How about you buy low and sell high? Does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it makes sense to take some or part of your retirement accounts and move it to safety. We've talked about that.
Well, sure. And the other thing you've brought up, Arif, and you'll know this data, it's how long has the stock market been on this uptick? And normally you have to look at if you're really following the markets and how they move, and you're really trying to time it, right? Because that's really what it's about. If you want to become wealthy in the markets, whether it's real estate, bonds, stocks, doesn't matter. It's all about timing. It's when did you buy and when did you sell? And for a lot of people, they are accidentally rich. They are riding this wave. Their accounts are up, and they don't know why. They don't know if it's partly because of the performance of the financial products, where they have their money saved in their retirement accounts. I don't care if it's an IRA, 401k, whatever have you. Or if it's because they're constantly dripping money into that account each and every paycheck, or maybe a combination of the two. But when we really break it down and we take a look at it, I don't think everyone's doing as well in these accounts as the markets report.
Well, if you take a look at the average individual's retirement account, they haven't done much better than 3, maybe 5%. Now, listen, maybe some of you have, but we have others that have lost. And they look at their account and they say, gosh, it seems like the only thing that's happening is my brokers are charging fees and they're doing well. Why are they always winning, regardless if the market goes up? What did I buy? Because you realize when you're spending money, you're buying something. An experience, a product, a meal, a service, a car, you're buying something. So what is it that you're spending your money on? And if you're spending your money in the fee world, you should be getting something. Well, I'm getting the management expertise. Okay. Fair. Let's play that for a second. Then when you call your broker and they are at lunch, or they took 2 weeks off on vacation,
Or went to the restroom.
Who's watching my money? You guys, this is my money. I worked for it. I invested it with you, Mr. and Mrs. Broker. Wall Street. You're managing it. All I'm thinking is managing means you're supposed to do something with it. And then after a couple of conversations, they say, okay. That's not really what we do. We don't like day to day buy, sell. We don't manage it like that. Oh, you go, oh, okay, then what do you do? They said, well, we just put it in the account. And the money managers and the computers, they buy and sell. They tell us when to do that stuff. Oh, okay, now I understand. So then why am I paying you again? Why don't I just pay those guys? Why don't I just pay a computer? And can a computer actually look out in my best interest? Tell me when things are good or not? I don't know. I think you have to take a look at the steps in which your retirement account goes up. When does it go up? When do I make money? And when does it go down? And if you're okay with the risk and paying the fees that you do in order to get that risk, then great. Then pay attention and write it up and down. If you want safety, that's what we do. It's just a little different. It's not the same.
Well, and I think going back to, true diversity means that you have money in different places, so that if, for instance, if if someone is going to accelerate the payment of their house, right, paying their house down, they say, I'm going to put everything on red. I'm going to make sure that I pay my house off before retirement. I'm not saving anything in my company retirement account or in my IRAs or individually. I don't even have a savings account. I just want to pay down my mortgage so that when I retire, I have this paid off house. Well, you'd say that's kind of foolish, right? Well, just the same thing exists when someone's going to put all of their eggs in the retirement account basket at work, because you think you're diversified in your workplace retirement accounts. And look, they're wonderful tools. Before you can spend that dollar, it goes into your retirement account. $1, $10, $100, $1,000. Before you get paid, it goes into that account. And I love that concept. But don't forget that just because your savings is on autopilot doesn't mean that you should forget about that and just keep stuffing money into it. We have seen time and again that these workplace retirement plans, they might be wonderful tools, mind you, but when you really break down the fees, there can be 16, 17, 18 layers of fees and charges and expenses. Yes, those were 3 different words, and they all mean different things. So really take a look at what you're buying, because you are buying something with every one of those contributions. And if it's working for you, fantastic. But if not, if you wonder why your account's really just not going up like everybody else thinks that they're going up, then you might want to start taking a look at it. Because sometimes you can access that retirement plan without taking a withdrawal. It's called an in-service rollover, and you can create some true diversity and achieve some of those reasonable rates of return and still have safety of the principal, like Arif was talking about.
And you see that when people turn around and they say, listen, I'm not prepared to retire just yet, but I've made a reasonable amount of my of gains. I love where I'm at, or at least I just don't want to lose. In other words, I'm comfortable with where I am. I'd like to continue to grow. I'd like to get reasonable returns. You can stay employed, still get the gains, and yet take those dollars, move them out of the retirement account world, and become a little bit safer with your program.
Well, and I like that idea because you're putting money systematically into your retirement account at work. You're not paying taxes on it, which is nice. You're probably getting a match of some sort, so an inducement. So you say, your employer says that you put in $1, we'll put in $1, and they might do that up to a certain point. So you got free money from your employer that you wouldn't have had you not put money in that account. Fantastic. You've built that up over time, and then you get to a point where you say, I don't want that to go backwards like it did in 2008 and some part of 2009. And then recently when we had these little hiccups that no one can explain, but your account goes down. And then it takes months, sometimes years, to regain some of those losses. So you can take a lot of those dollars, a lot of times in your retirement accounts, and move them, like Arif said, to safety. It's a lateral move. It goes out of the plan. You don't shut down your workplace plan. You can still put more money in. You can still get the match if there is one. And then you've preserved your nest egg on the side. Now that's true diversity.
We'd love to help you with that if we can. 888-99-RETIRE. That's our phone number. 888, so 888-99-RETIRE. That's 888-997-3847. When it comes to your retirement accounts and saving and building and planning, we've heard it said on many occasions that the goal about the savings and the building of the plan isn't just so that you can spend your last dollar when you die. That's not what a lot of people do. They don't, and I've spent my last dollar, bye-bye. It's to leave a legacy. It's to leave money for your children. It's to leave money for a cause, for your spouse. Statistically speaking, if you can reach age 65 without cancer, that's the rule, it's the number, and you reach age 65 and you haven't been diagnosed with cancer, there is an enormous percentage chance that you're going to reach to age 85. Now that means if you're a standard person that's retired, that's 20, 25, maybe even 30 years in retirement, depending on where you worked. So that could be nearly as long as the working years that you're now in the retirement world. Okay, so that's a big part of what you're doing. It's building up
really
the thought process that I'm not designing myself just to say I'm going to spend my last dollar. Because statistically, you're going to live 85, 90, 95. So I don't mind if you chose a little bit of risk with your account and you say the reason is because I think I'm going to live, and I don't mind if it takes me 10 or 15 or 20 years for that money to come back. But I do say you better have some protected or you may have to go back to work.
Well, and that's especially true when we have one spouse that does most of the wage earning, does most of the saving, and does most of the managing of the finances. And if the other spouse just manages other parts, maybe the household, maybe the children, a whole host of other responsibilities, but one primarily does most of the management of the finances. if you do not have that mindset that if something were to happen to you right now, can your spouse live? Certainly, you won't be buying, the things that you were buying before because you're dead, right? But your spouse still has to continue their lifestyle. And if you've built 100% of your financial life around 100% of your income and one of you passes away, that's kind of a dangerous thing to
You're going to
behind.
lose some of the pension normally. It's usually 50%, 75%. So there's a reduction in the pension. There's always a reduction if you're getting Social Security because you're going to lose the lower of the two. Yes, there's going to be one less car insurance, less food, but you're not going to do a whole lot different air conditioning or water bills. Your garden still needs to be watered. Your
Property
home,
taxes.
yeah, the property taxes doesn't. You don't get a reduction there. So yes, some of the bills might be less, but it's such a minor difference. The biggest problem that you're going to have in retirement is if both of you are making about the same in Social Security, because that means you lose 50%.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And what we see is that when you get to that place in your life, can you go back to work when you're in your late 60s or 70s? I mean, I guess you could. We see a lot of people that become, greeters at stores, or they, work in flower shops, or they do something that, whatever they have an affinity for. But it's usually not a high earning or a high wage that they can earn because by definition, you should be retired. You've been out of the workforce, your relevance, your skill set, your training, it's not up to date. So why would you want to impose that on your spouse?
Yeah, I love it.
When you could have fixed it 10 years ago.
You know how many times I meet with a younger couple and I'll say, oh, you have 3 children. They're early teens, mid-teens. Your wife stays at home. And, people pass away all the time for various reasons. What would you do if what would your wife do if you were to pass away? She doesn't have any skill set. You're the engineer. You're the whatever. She's a stay-at-home mom. The skill set is much more difficult, I think, being a stay-at-home mom, because you have to be good at a lot of things, not just your job. But nobody's paying you for that. That's the point. So what does she do? And he says, well, I guess she's just going to have to sell the house and get a job. Now, if I were her, I'd sock him in the arm and say, are you kidding? Why don't you go pound sand, buddy? Or how about you spend $50 a month on a term life insurance plan? Right? For the next 10 years or something. You can buy term insurance very inexpensively. How about you learn to, budget a little bit for retirement accounts. There's some things that you can do so that you don't have to be a jerk and tell your wife, well, she's just going to remarry anyway. I remember a client. He said he had 5 children. I said, so what's your wife going to do? He said, she's just going to remarry anyway. I said, you tell me the kind of guy that's going to marry a woman with 5 other children that aren't hers. You think that's a good guy? That's a guy? Those men exist. To me, they're angels. When you've chosen to raise another man's child, and you men and women do the same thing, that's incredible to me. But if that's your exit strategy on this planet, is when you pass away, you're hoping your wife is going to meet the man of her dreams, who's willing to take on raising 3, 4, 5 children of somebody else's. I can tell you in my law enforcement days, those guys were often predators, pedophiles. They were bad guys. They weren't the kind of person you say, well, I can't wait to have this man who's going to come in and say, honey, you go get the job. I'll stay home and take care of the kids. Really? So, folks, you need to think twice about this. You can do it for $100, $50 a month. I don't know, depending on your age and how much you need. All right, so think about that when we come back. That goes all the way through to retirement, because these are life insurance plans are not something that you necessarily have to have go away. They are something that you can take with you through retirement. We're going to continue when we come back. On your place for news, talk, and information. This is your place, the Total Financial Hour, KHTS. We'll be right back.
Santa Clarita's premier senior living community, Oakmont of Santa Clarita, is leasing, bringing comfort and luxury to assisted living. Seniors can enjoy 5-star amenities, panoramic views, easy access to the freeways, and nearby shopping centers in a world-class community that provides an advanced continuum of care. No other community has this kind of luxury and amenities in our valley. You'll find good health, vitality, and purpose at Oakmont of Santa Clarita. Stop by for a tour. Visit oakmontofsantaclarita.com.
Men, are you feeling tired, stressed, or just don't have the energy you used to? Did you know this could be related to decreased testosterone levels? Luckily, there's a safe, effective solution. Weeder Prime helps support healthy testosterone levels with clinically tested key ingredients. Just 2 capsules of Weeder Prime each day can help change your mood, energy, focus, body fat, and lean muscle. Feel the way you felt 10, 20, even 30 years ago. Rediscover your Prime with Weeder Prime. To find a retailer near you, visit WeederPrime.com. That's WEIDER Prime.com.
Hi, it's Ashley with Waste Management. Have you ever heard the phrase, one bad apple spoils the bunch? The same is true for recycling. One non-recyclable item can spoil an entire load of otherwise good material. This may seem like a small issue, but it represents a huge problem that's preventing tons of recyclables from ever seeing a second life. Working together, we can do better by following 3 simple rules. Recycle all bottles, cans, cardboard, glass, and paper. Keep items clean and dry, and no plastic bags in the recycling. For more recycling tips, follow us on Twitter at WM_SoCal.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220. Your hometown station.
Financial security will help you live the life you dream. Learn about financial power, the total financial hour. Now higher income strategy. Learn from Arif Halaby. Learn about
Welcome back.
financial power.
It's Total Financial Hour. I'm Arif Halaby along with Jeff Gerard. Hey, you could always go to hometownstation.com, click on Total Financial Solutions. Send us a message if you have a question. We get a lot of emails from you. That's great. You can go to hometownstation.com. You can also go directly to our website, which is TFS, stands for Total Financial Solutions, TFSwealth.com, TFSwealth.com. Give us a call if you have a question. It's 888-99-RETIRE. We'll be able to hopefully answer a couple of your questions. Sometimes we get them on the air as well. Here's a couple of things I want you to pay attention to. When we talk about the changes in the economy and the growth, and it's enormous growth. Right now, folks, this is not a normal world. If we can get, right, you've heard us talk about the debt, the student loan problems, the national debt with bonds and the $20 trillion, $21 trillion in debt. You've heard us talk about all of these things. I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but if we can have 4.5% per year in growth, you're going to see wages go up. Certainly you're going to see some inflation, but you're going to see wages go up. You're going to see the debt come down. If we do this for 4 years, 8 years, 16 years, if the Republicans get their way and they have 16 years of the presidency, the last time we had more than 8 of the same political party was Ronald Reagan for 8, and then George Bush Sr., if you will, for another 4, and then he was defeated by Bill Clinton. So that was 12 years of economic policy. That's what really laid the foundation for the growth in the 90s that you saw with Bill Clinton's administration for 8 years. If we have that as a nation, if we can get to that place, and it's 4% growth, I think the Dems would pull their hair out, but 4, 4.25, 4.5 maybe, I don't know the number. But it's probably right in there. 3%, and we're breaking even under today's world, because we are going to have to make changes. Gosh, if I could be king for a day, this stuff is recorded forever. So when it happens and it's the right thing, you guys can remember Arif Halaby, spelled with an A. Arif. Ready? This is what I think. I think you have to go in and tell folks, listen, if you want to collect Social Security at an earlier age than 65, then it's means tested, which means if you make money from other places, we're going to reduce it, period. But if you're not, if it's your only source of income in retirement or within whatever numbers the smart people figure out, then fine, you get 100% of your Social Security. The rest of you have to wait till 73, 74. They don't like odd numbers, so let's call it 74. Arif, oh my gosh, that used to be... Yeah, I know it did. Tough. You voted for them. You voted for those people. They passed those laws. You should have gotten out and voted differently. I don't like it. I'm the guy that's going to get hurt, right? Because we do our best to save. It's the same thing. But you have to give it. Maybe 72, maybe 74 years old. That's number one. The second fix, you eliminate all government insurance except for the most poor. and you go back to physicians and you say, listen, you get to bill and be paid what you are billed. I saw a bill. Somebody in our family went to the doctor recently, and I saw the bill for the submitted to the insurance, and it says that this is not a bill. So I guess it's not a bill. It says it's not a bill, but it says this was your statement of benefits. And I looked. It was $400 for this, $800 for that, $2,000, whatever it was. Added up, $7,400 and change is what was requested or billed by the physician and the doctor. Guess how much was actually paid by the insurance, Jeff?
$2,000.
Oh, they were $800.
Oh.
Can you imagine? And it's not right away. It's 30 days, 60 days later. Can you imagine being in any other career where you go and you eat the dinner, they give you a bill, and they say, hey, this is a family of 4. You guys had hors d'oeuvres and maybe some wine. You had some dessert. It's family of 4, $150. So, Jeff, you and your family, you guys go home, and then in the next 30 days, you decide how much you want to pay of that $150.
Ridiculous.
You would say, you guys, that's incredible. The restaurant would go out of business.
Sure.
Your physician would go out of business. So what do? They have to borrow money. They're enormous debt, folks. Not just student loan debt. Physicians have to do what's called factoring, which means they're selling tomorrow's bills or payments that are expected to come in based on yesterday's billing so they could pay today's expenses. Let me tell you that again. They're selling tomorrow's payments based on yesterday's services so they can pay today's expenses. I just made that up.
It's profound.
Right
and
here.
It's true.
So you guys...
It makes me wonder why people become physicians. I mean, they truly have to have a passion for
I
helping
agree.
people, because if you look at how crazy and backwards the billing system is. I mean, now mind you, we have clients that have people like, and you know who I'm thinking of, that's a wizard with the billing and bills hundreds of thousands of dollars a month and is spot on with it. The physician that she works for does very well. The practice runs very, very well. It's very healthy. But not every physician has that type of a billing system.
And you have to understand, if you are becoming a doctor or you're becoming that kind of person that is going to serve people and get paid maybe sort of kind of if they think it's okay.
Yeah.
The government is in this business of deciding how much you get paid. If you are a doctor, how ridiculous is that? You would not accept that in any other job. You go ahead, you go buy a house, you work for the county, you work for the city, and the city says, oh, you know what, we're supposed to pay you $8,000 a month. We're going to pay you $6,000 this month. Next month we might pay you $5,000. Next month we might pay you $9,000. You go, but Arif, how am I supposed to pay my bills? Exactly. So I think the government needs to get out of healthcare, except for the very poor. And we should all pay for that, right? Churches, charities, you start with your family, churches, charities, and then the government. That's the second solution to Arif's world of economic recovery. The third, very simple. Allow you to put in as much as you want for your retirement accounts, as much as you want. But Arif, that's only going to benefit the rich. Yep, we're taking away Social Security from them anyway in the future. We're taking it from their paycheck today, and we're going to take it from them in the future, in my plan, right? So if we're going to take it from them in the future, we ought to let them, we want to encourage them. Yeah, give us all the free money you want. Because the more money you make, the more money you save, Mr. Rich Guy, Mrs. Rich Lady, then we're not going to give you the Social Security that you've been paying for since you were 18 anyway. Because that's going to be designed for the middle class and the lower income. That's the welfare, if you will, for seniors. Or if it's not welfare, I've paid into it. Call it whatever you want. In my plan, you let the folks, whoever they want, they're going to sacrifice. They're not going to buy a car. They may not buy their third home. Whatever it is, they're going to save more for their retirement. Let them put in as much as they want. Great. That's the third. The fourth is to say, listen, every single state has to live within its budget. Now, the federal government can't tell you what to spend money on, right? You're the state. It's the 14th, separation of powers, right? Fourth Amendment. Maybe it's the fourth. But the federal government should be saying, every state, you have to live within your budget. And they go, well, that's not. No, no, no. Here's why. Because state politicians like California, when you're so corrupt, when you create this bullet train to nowhere, and you have water issues, and you're letting people do solar panels every other minute on their home, and you forget that there's such a toxic waste dump, you understand how crooked the solar panel industry is. Arif, that's not right. You tell me where you're going to put that toxic waste. There's more toxic waste per ton with energy created from solar panels than from nuclear waste. We should have a nuclear power plant on every other corner if that's the case. It's the cleanest. Oh, but you have toxic radioactive stuff. Yep, we got to put it in a barrel and then lock it in and then bury it in cement and then buried in cement and cement and then, yep, we do. There is zero plan for your solar panel with all of the toxic waste. The state should be saying, listen, we're going to do this. We're going to get away from the environmental wackos. Every time Scope opens up its mouth, how many times do they actually win on logic or on technicalities, right? People drop one little fish or some spotted frog. See, you can't build homes over there. And in the end, they do the ends justify the means. You remember, that was the crazies on the right. The crazies on the right of the political spectrum used to say the ends justify the means. Now it's the crazies on the left. Right? They spent forever saying that's wrong, it's not ends justify the means, situational ethics. And all of a sudden today, you're getting people say, oh, well, it's because I want the view. Well, then build more houses or more apartments or more, I don't know. Or be prepared for every home to be 4, 5, 800,000. You can't have it both ways, guys. I don't think it's difficult if you just do those things and you require each state to live within its means. The pressure on the federal government and on the taxpayers would not force you and me to have to consider leaving the state of California when you retire. They don't leave an option. In the last 5 days, 5 business days, right? So all of last week and 1 day this week, let's say 6 days. 80% of the folks that are retiring are leaving the state or have left the state. 8 out of 10. And these are not poor people. These aren't the homeless guys you see walking on Newhall Avenue or that live over here in the Wash. They're not going, oh darn, the bologna sandwiches are better in Arizona, so I'm leaving, being homeless in Santa Clarita. The folks that are leaving are the ones that make money, go to the hairdresser, go to the liquor store, go to the dry cleaner, the grocery store. They spend money. They pay their property taxes. Right? You can't throw a rock and not hit a house that isn't paying $800 or $1,000 a month in property taxes. Folks, in Santa Clarita, $800 or $1,000 or more per month in property taxes is normal. And what do they get?
The privilege of having a multi-million-dollar home.
Yeah, that has a 0 lot line.
Right.
That has a gate
No
that barely
backyard.
works in the front.
Yeah.
Gated community. You can't even afford a security guard at the front, just a clicker.
Yeah.
You know how easy it is to break into those? Oh my gosh, you guys.
Well, it's so much so, to your point, that I spoke to somebody in Texas recently, and they said they're making bumper stickers because so many people, there's such a massive influx of outside residents coming in and relocating to Texas. Because, right, that's the new booming place. Well, not super new, but in the last few years, they've had a lot of people. They've taken in a lot of people from other states. So if they're making bumper stickers about it.
And what does it say? Like, welcome to Texas, now go home kind of thing?
Something like that, yeah. Some variations, but just interesting. So if that's happening, then you know that we're flooding them.
If I move to Texas, immediately I'm getting a cowboy hat and a pickup truck.
I don't think they call them cowboy hats, though.
They just call them hats?
They'll know you're not from there if you call it a cowboy hat. It's
Do you
just
have a
hat.
cowboy hat? They're like, you mean a hat?
That's like going to China and asking for Chinese food. It's just food.
They're going to say, did you want a hat? Like, you mean
10-gallon or you want a 13-gallon?
You must be from California, son.
Right.
Between 2007 2016, about 6 million people moved out of California. 6 million left, gone. That's important you understand that, because then California starts to lose its political clout. Why do you think San Francisco is allowing illegal aliens and immigrants to vote? Did you know that? San Francisco passed a rule last week. They allow illegal immigrants to vote. Is that like aren't you guys, you already heard, I went to San Francisco earlier this year, and I told you couldn't walk a half a block, and we stayed on Nob Hill at Ritz-Carlton. It was a conference. I didn't choose it, but it's a very nice place. I'm at this conference. Halfway through, I said, oh, let's go for a walk. Whatever. One of the free days or something, free afternoons. You couldn't go a half a block in any direction without smelling urine, human waste, or marijuana. I stopped taking pictures of the hypodermic needles and the drug paraphernalia that was found everywhere. It was almost like it was a joke. And they have an actual emergency phone number that the residents and the shopkeepers are to call, because these people go to the restroom right on the sidewalk, right in the streets, right in the parking spaces, right in front of your business, in front of your grocery store. And so there's an emergency number that you call, and the city sends out this team of people, and they come out in hazmat suits. Meanwhile, you walk around it all day long. You're supposed to step over it in just your regular street clothes. But the city sends out these people, and they say because of hepatitis C and B and tuberculosis and other diseases that I can't spell. And so instead of saying, well, we're going to crack down, they say we're going to go even more socialist. We're going to go even more down that road. They have doubled down in this crazy wacko, open up the borders and everything. Listen, I get it. There's reasons on every side. But is it not insane that one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been to, as long as it's a picture, no smell-o-vision, I don't want to I don't want to feel the experience. I just want to see it. Then I'll remember what it was like 4 years ago, the last time I was there.
Didn't you say there was food that's set out
Yes.
to make sure people get fed?
So have you seen it where you go to these parks and you have ladies and guys that will feed the pigeons, right? And retiree, that's the stereotypical, retiree pigeons come and eat the bread. Or you have the cat lady, right? The back of her apartment, she stray cats, and she leaves 3 or 4 little bowls of whatever and kibble and whatever for the cats. Mm-hmm. They do that for people. They just leave styrofoam takeout containers on the shelves of like parking structures and up against planters. And we had to walk under a bridge because there's a lot of tunnels and bridges and stuff, and we were going from one place down and around and over. And underneath the bridge, which is, man, oh man, did you have to get through that rather quickly, because it was a safe place for people to sleep at night. And there was food left out, like noodles and rice and, just food. It was, you would think the people that go, and I will be in charge, so help my God, boom, they now have an idea. The reason they wanted to run wasn't because they, quote, wanted to be rich. It's because they wanted to help people. So, folks, I share this with you because part of your retirement strategy for a lot of people is to leave. And I think that's a shame, but I understand it. I don't judge it. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think for many of you, it's a necessary thing. I think the rest of you better stop voting for these crazies in Sacramento. We have a one-party system. There is no checks and balance. Now, if you're our local politicians that are Republican and conservative, they'll tell you. They go up there and they say, okay, does anybody disagree in here? Yeah. Okay, well, I guess we don't hear anything next. They go, but you didn't hear us? Oh, yeah, there was like 8 of you. 8 of you said no. Everybody else is on the same page. So California's just this year, earlier this year, a couple months ago, CNBC is reporting that Californians fed up with housing costs and taxes are the reason they are fleeing the state. So wages have to come up. Okay, I think that's going to happen. I think we're seeing it more and more. But you have to have accountability. And as that accountability starts to change, I don't know what it is in the tax world, right? Dianne Feinstein's husband, so excited. He was the one who was paid $110 million, one of the first checks written by those of you that said, we want a high-speed rail system to get where? From Los Angeles to where? San Francisco? So they can ship the homeless people south faster? Just take a Southwest flight. It's like $69. Why would you can't even go high speed in 3/4 of the track because the terrain doesn't allow it. You're going along a mountain. You're just going about the same speed. Did you guys not know that? Oh, well, we're going to go into a tunnel. Really? This $20 billion, $30 billion, now it's a $100 billion project. Everybody knew that they lied when they told you it was a $30 billion taxpayer-funded deal. Everybody knew it. It's just like Obamacare. Everybody knew that it was going to mess up the system and it wasn't going to be true. But they all wink and nod, shake hands, pat each other on the back, drink some champagne, and go on to the next cause. So you have to figure out, is this where your future is? I hope it is, because we need good people, but I understand when you're going to leave. Right? So many of you said, I'm done with the fight. I've heard it. We're going to be back in just a minute. Continue with what you can do for your retirement. How do you double check? How do you back it up? How do you make sure that this is the right move when we come back? Your place for news, talk, and information. This is your hometown station, KHTS. I'm Arif Halaby, and that's Jeff Gerard on the Total Financial Hour. We'll be right back.
It's allergy season again. You've tried it all, yet your sinuses continue to be a problem. Try something different, something holistic, something that will really work. Acupuncture. Kathleen Keneally is Santa Clarita's acupuncture and innate specialist. She's been treating many of your neighbors and their children for allergies, sinuses, headaches, and pain. Find out how acupuncture can improve the quality of your life. Call Kathleen Keneally for a free phone consultation. 252-4100. 252-4100. Acupuncture. It really works.
Santa Clarita Philharmonic has begun its season of free concerts. The SCP is a non-profit community-based volunteer symphony orchestra comprised of local musicians from throughout the Santa Clarita Valley who are dedicated to providing quality classical music for the residents of the Santa Clarita Valley. Like the Santa Clarita Philharmonic on Facebook or visit santaclaritaphilharmonic.org for more information.
Visiting Angels is looking for quality caregivers and companions to join our growing team of compassionate, caring people providing care and assistance to Santa Clarita seniors. Our Angels help seniors with activities such as meal preparation, light housekeeping, personal care, and running errands. Visiting Angels takes pride in offering competitive wages, benefits, paid training, and flexible schedules. We have clients throughout Santa Clarita so you can work close to home. Details at visitingangels.com/Santa Clarita.
Angels, America's choice in home care.
Drugs or alcohol abuse can tear a family apart. In Santa Clarita, just like everywhere else, it's an epidemic. The Way Out Recovery is here to help. Call them now at 296-4444 or visit them on the web at thewayoutrocoveryscv.com. The Way Out offers outpatient treatment for adolescents, adults, and family members. The Way Out is compassionate, caring, professional, and confidential. You and your family don't have to suffer any longer. Call The Way Out Recovery now, 296-4444, or visit thewayoutrocoveryscv.com and make an appointment. Asking for help is the first step.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220. Your hometown station.
Financial security will help you live the life you dream. Learn about financial power, the Total Financial Hour. Now higher income strategy. Learn from.
Hey, welcome back to the show, the Total Financial Hour. I'm Arif Halaby. That's Jeff Gerard, talking about your family's finances. Some of the issues you hear us speak about this pretty passionately because, in your life, you're going to have truths, right? Whatever you think is true and believe to be true. And I remember in college they were trying to get me to question that there was such thing as a universal truth. And one of my very liberal professors, she was one of my history teachers for advanced history courses, and she said, Arif, there are universal truths. This has always been the case. And I was pretty surprised to hear that. And I was on the same side of the aisle, if you will, as she was. And she said, the universal truths are, and she went through a few things. Murder is wrong, stealing, taking something that isn't yours, etc. Went through a whole list of things. But one of those things that she mentioned that was a universal truth, and I was surprised, and she was an immigrant, was that opportunity or a chance. Like she said, every human being deserves a chance. And I said, you mean universal? What means that these are God-given rights, right? The Constitution doesn't say that the king gives you these Bill of Rights. They are inalienable, which means God, your higher power, whatever you choose, they are gifted. It isn't a government to give, because then the government can take. And those are very important distinctions. And in her mind, back then, you could see how radical she'd probably be, a radical righty today with those views. People just want a chance or an opportunity. They don't want the government putting their thumb on the scale, pushing things one way or the other. They just want a chance. And the reason people came to this country and to this state, listen, this is pretty profound. My dad left Lebanon because there wasn't an opportunity in Lebanon, and he went to West Africa. And this is in the early 50s. So he was in West Africa for over 10 years. Because that's where opportunity was. That's where the diamond mining business was going. That's where they were in the grocery store business. They were opening grocery stores. And so basically it was like a general store. They'd sell picks and shovels as well as groceries. And that's where growth opportunity was. And then he left West Africa and came to the United States because that's the next future for him. He grew up thinking the United States was the place. And then he came to America in New York, and then drove to Michigan and met my mom in Michigan. When he met my mom in Michigan, they knew each other about 4.5 weeks, from hello to I do. In fact, their first date they knew each other for a couple weeks before that, but their first date was my mom's 18th birthday. They were married, had an opportunity to have a chance in Michigan. But my mom looked around and she said, you know what, this is a dead-end sleepy town. It's a farm town. Manufacturing is changing. There isn't really a chance for my family and my future here. So her and my dad said, the answer is California. We're going to leave Michigan because we think there's a better chance, better opportunity in California. Not a better guarantee. You have to get that out of your kid's mind. Because otherwise they think they don't have to do anything, and they're just breathe. I exist, therefore I get. Not I produce, I create, I am therefore worthy. And when they came to California, they did so because they thought it would be a better chance for us as children, or their kids, to succeed. Where my heart breaks is that a lot of people that did that from around the world, it's not just, are now finding that this one-party railroad, literally and figuratively train to nowhere, of ideas and socialist agenda is now taking down the once amazing, prosperous, and beautiful place called California, riddling it with debt, chasing employers out by fining them every employee. I told you I had to pay $200 this year per employee. That's not conducive for people wanting to bring more business to California. Everybody has to pay. So I encourage you to reach out, to vote, to get away from this craziness and give yourself a chance to come back to California's once beautiful opportunity. It's not over yet. It might be close, but it isn't. We got a little bit more to go. Thanks for joining us and being with us this hour of the program. I'm Arif Halaby, and that's Jeff Gerard. 888-99-RETIRE. That's our number. 888-99-RETIRE. 997-3847. I'm Arif Halaby.